This is The Rock Show with Andy Fox.
How does it feel running around, round, round? How does it feel watching from upside down? 'Cause many years from now there will be new sensations and new temptations. How does it feel? How does it feel right at the start? And how does it feel
to the third and final hour of this week's rock show with me, Andy Fox. And classic tracking from Slade, and one of my favourite tracks of theirs called How Does It Feel, which came from the film Slade in Flame, and the film and soundtrack from 1975. Slade had 2 number 1 albums and 12 top 10 singles, including 6 number 1s, prior to the release of 1975's In Flame, which was considered a bit of a flop movie at the time, but has since become a cult classic. The members of Slade playing a fictional band called Flame, dealing with the harsh realities of the then music business. But their fans just didn't get it, and it actually did Slade more harm than good. But it's back in cinemas for its 50th anniversary and released the first time on DVD and Blu-ray this month. And Noddy Holder, now 78 years old, talks about the film together with director Richard Loncraine.
The idea came originally, as far as I know, from our manager. Ever since the band started and we signed with him, Chas Chandler, he was in the Animals, he discovered, managed, produced Jimi Hendrix. But the blueprint for Slade was he wanted to follow the pattern of the Beatles. So once we had hits, then we had number 1s. He wanted to do a movie because the Beatles did a movie in their blueprint. So then he came to Richard.
I was such a hustler in those days that I just got the job and got it. And then the first time, I remember, I had no idea how to block out a scene. It was really quite frightening.
But it was the same for us. Richard had to teach us. We came into the film, we thought we'd do a take, and that'd be it, on to next scene. We didn't realise you got to set up again for cameras, lights, for close-ups, and you got to act the scene, the lines, the props, everything exactly the same as you did in the master shot. We had no idea of the technicalities of movie making at all. We purposely did not want to what the audience would expect of a band like us. We were a happy-go-lucky band. They thought they were going to get a comedy romp. That's what they expected.
And well, that was a commercial mistake we made, wasn't it, really?
Commercially, yeah.
Because your fan base were, what, 15-year-old, 14-year-old?
Yeah.
And so they didn't want to see the dirty side of the rock and roll business.
They did not. And we took Richard and Andrew Birkin, the writer, we took them to America. They were going to do a month's tour behind the scenes, seeing what a rock and roll band were like behind the scenes. And on the road out there, we told them stories about ourselves and other bands, which they wove into the movie script. All the scenes in the movie are taken from real life of different bands, but certainly back in the 60s. I'm not so sure it don't go on now, but certainly back in the 60s it did. We came from small town, you know, council estate. We were governed by small town agents, managers. They wanted to make a quick buck. And then when you move up a ladder and you start getting a record deal, it's just the books get bigger. That's all, but the characters stay the same. And then you have to enter the corporate world, record companies, etc. They want value for money. In our era, the Slade era, our contract, even though we were on a good contract, we had to make at least minimum 1 album a year and 3 singles a year minimum. We'd already had 6 number 1 records. We'd had 12 big hit records, 6 of them being number 1. It was, as I said, it was Chas Chandler's idea to do a movie. It was the next step up the ladder for us for internationally. Because the film era is set in the late 60s, we tried to give it a late 60s sound. The songs were written for the movie. It's probably our best, certainly in our top 3 albums that we ever made, and now people consider it, the songs on there, particularly How Does It Feel, which was the theme tune to the movie. Nobody at the time wanted that out, particularly our management. The record company certainly didn't want it out. The only reason they bought that out as a single was because of it was the theme tune to the movie.
How does it feel? Turn it away. How does it feel? Facing another day. 'Cause
Nobody liked it. It was the first record in 5 years that didn't make the top 3. It got to about number 15. Now, everybody thinks it's probably one of the best songs we ever did. But way back then, they thought, this is not Slade. What are Slade up to doing this? They thought exactly about How Does It Feel, exactly what they thought about the movie. What on earth are Slade up to? I remember we went to do Top of the Pops on whatever single we'd got out at that time, 2 days after the movie, and we were down doing the sound check and the sound rehearsal and camera rehearsal in the afternoon. The director of Top of the Pops came down to the sound stage, and he said to Dave, he went straight to Dave, he says, Dave, that was a great movie, but it's going to kill your career. And Dave really took that at heart. I didn't. I thought it was a great movie. Richard took our personalities that he'd learnt about on the road with us, and he basically used those personalities as our personalities in the film. It's the only way we could have got through it.
They did an amazing job. I mean, you were playing yourselves, but that still was not easy.
It wasn't easy.
No, they did a remarkable job, I think, and it's matured really quite well as a movie.
I think it stands up the test of time, especially 50 years on. I think it's great because, well, it keeps the band's name afloat for one thing, but as a work of movie making, I think Richard deserves the big chunk of the credit. What it's got is a feel about it. It shows a rock and roll band like ourselves. We grew up on a council estate. We eventually got success after years and years of struggle. We get success, and then it shows the pitfalls of success. But now, looking back on it, it was pretty much a mirror image of what has gone on in all of our lives as a band. I always say, these days now, all these years on, 5 things split up a band. They are egos, they are money, they are drink and drugs, they are women, and there are musical differences. And in Slade's case, it was all 5.
I've seen the yellow lights go down the Mississippi. I've seen the bridges of the world, and they're for real. I've had a red light up the wrist without me even getting kissed. It still seems so unreal. I've seen the morning in the mountains of Alaska. I've seen the sunset in the east and in the west. I've sang the glory that was Rome and passed the hound dog singers home. It still seems for the best. And I'm far, far away with my head up in the clouds. And I'm far, far away with my feet down in the crowds. Letting loose around the world, but the call of home is
Noddy Holder talking about the reissue of 50th anniversary of Slade in Flame, along with the director Richard Loncraine there. And that was the two tracks we played from Slade, How Does It Feel and Far, Far Away, both featured on the film and the soundtrack of Slade in Flame. If you've never seen the movie, check it out. It is a bit gritty in places, but it's a fine piece of work from the 1975, of course. But like I said, it didn't have a great effect on their career.